Hello retro fans. Long time no update to my channel because I was still pretty busy with a couple of projects I have to work on and I have to finish, and therefore there's not that much time to create videos. I will do some videos about a project I'm working on right now, but in order to do so I really have to finish them, otherwise it will be simply too long to watch, and I know that time is precious, and therefore we have to keep it short a little bit, let's say. And anyway, during the last weeks I have received a couple of new things related to the C64, and this episode is all about those new things. And you may have recognized that I have slightly changed my intro to the video today. And I created a new version of the title music, and this was some kind of let's say side project, because I spent some time working with the MIDI box, or MB6582 as it is named sometimes as well. And one of the exercises was to recreate my channel intro music with the MIDI box. So the first music was done almost with the setup you see in the intro at the very end of the intro. So I have used Hardsit for you as well as some C64s for it. And this one, the music is done entirely with the MIDI box, because it is really an interesting and very outstanding device, and I was very surprised how kind of easy it was to recreate music, because I haven't used the old project. I really started from scratch, and I digged through all the options and menus of the MIDI box, and there will be let's say an overview episode, and as well as some tutorial videos about the MIDI box as well in the near future. And you may have recognized that I have changed my channel name as well. And this is kind of inspired by some comments I have received after I have uploaded my channel introduction video. And the, let's say, major concern was that my channel name is quite confusing, a little bit difficult as well, and nobody really associates C64 related stuff with this channel name, and therefore I decided to pay attention to these concerns and or recommendation or whatever comment, and therefore I changed the channel name to C64 Customs, which is probably something that describes the purpose of this channel a bit better, and therefore I hope this is going to be change that fits, as well as find some appreciation. And the name Kieferknistern will remain, but as I said in the introduction video as well, this is the name of my, let's say, music related content, my music project. And probably there will be a new channel with this name again, but this channel will be related to music stuff only. So there will be some C64 hardware as well, but mostly modifications to use the C64 for making music, and some tutorials, for example, how to use the C64 for making music and such things. And therefore I think it's going to be a little bit easier to find or locate content in those two channels related to the topics. Anyway, that's enough, I think, about channel news so far, and let's move on to the things I have received in the last time. and therefore we're going to change over to my camera view. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff on my desk already. So let's start at the very beginning, and this is a lot of new SD-RAM mod stuff, and I have received some samples, some prototypes, so to say. I think you already have seen this one. That's the SD-RAM mod for the standard C64. And I have received, I think that's just another one, additional things. And this is for the older C64s. They have a different RAM format, and therefore this PCB has to look a little bit different, because we need this to connect to more than 2 sockets. And last but not least, this is the SRAM 128 V1.0. That's for the Commodore 128. And I'm going to test this pretty soon as I have my C128 back to life. That's something I'm working on right now. And then I will have some special video about this SRAM mods as well. And just as some kind of outlook, my understanding is that the creator of these SRAM mods will make them available over the, let's say, course of the year, perhaps within the next month or something like this. There will be an omnibus order at the Forum 64. And then he's going to consider to make them available commercially via some online shop or something like this. So I just beg your pardon, you have to be a little bit patient that those kits won't be available within the next weeks, but as I said, we're still in the testing phase, and there will be an episode about all that things as well. So much about the SRAM mod. And then I have received 2 new games, and one is L'Abeille de Mort, and it's coming from Canada, from Double Sided Games. And it has a pretty, let's say, unique packaging. So it's not this standard video cassette cover. It is really some custom built carton box. Looks pretty nice and pretty shiny. And I was a little bit reluctant whether I want to go for this game or not, but inspired by the great game review done by RetroGamerNation, I decided, well, yes, indeed, I will have a look on it. And as you can see, it is some kind of special edition as well. So it comes in a nice transparent cartridge, which is kind of sealed in some sort of bag here. And beside the transparency, it is basically the standard cartridge format. But well, it looks very nice. It's a very nice change compared to the other ones. And here's a nice massive ring. So it's probably one size fits all. So let's see whether this will shrink to my finger, or maybe I have to grow my finger a little bit, but it fits to the middle finger. Probably nothing I'm going to wear all day long, but well, nice feature. Oh, size 10, okay. So let's put it back for a while. And then we have some nice manual. Well, it is short and straightforward, so to say. Something about history and probably how to operate the game. Yes, very nice. And then last but not least, we have a poster, which is shaped like the box, so it's not the standard poster format. It's more like a different aspect ratio. But, well, it is a nice print quality. Unfortunately, it will be hard to get this in some kind of flat format, because those folds kind of leave some remarks on the poster. So let's see how we can get this into a proper shape. And then we have some kind of a plate or so. 2 dragons on the back side, and this 64.738.net, which I have to kind of investigate what's the purpose of this. It looks very interesting, but it's not going to be a new speed stick or something like this. But well, it's a nice addition to the game. And as I said, RetroGamerNation has done a very nice game review of this game already. So feel free to head over and check it out over there. And I will probably have maybe a live episode somewhere in the evening trying to play the game. And then we will see how this is done. So, putting this aside, let's move on to the next thing. And this is Aviator Arcade 2. There has been an Aviator Arcade 1 already, and I think it was a 16 KB competition entry, and a lot of people expressed that this game needs to be expanded to a full, let's say, title. And this has been done so far. And I've played the game as a disc version already, so if you buy the game, then you can download the disc image immediately. And I've tested this already, and I was a little bit annoyed by the loading times. So they picked a very, let's say, compatible loader, so you can run this from SD to IC as well as on the C64 Mini, as well as on a standard C64, which is indeed a very nice idea. But if we talk about arcade games, I expect very short loading times and instant actions. And as you can see, this game is all about a helicopter, and it is basically a standard scroll shooter game. And this is now the cartridge version, which is as usual from R3CT, very nicely done, and has a very nice beveled sticker here as well, or whatever you want to call this. And a very nice black finished cartridge. And we have some additional goodies here as well. So we got some buttons, which I have, I think, received a couple of times already with different other RGCT games. But anyway, sometimes you lose one, and then you have some spare buttons. And we have some field manual as well as a postcard. And another postcard, and a huge RGCD sticker, and a kind of manual. So as I said, it's all about a helicopter walking its way through territory that has been kind of occupied by enemy forces. And you have a couple of options which make the game very, let's say, playable, like for example an auto fire option, which I highly appreciate, because I really dislike hitting those fire buttons a million times during a game, and therefore it's very nice. You have some in-game upgrades like a rapid fire gun, heat-seeking missile, and extra smart bombs. And then you have some kind of power-ups as well to kind of repair your helicopter again. And very nice manual, I have to say. The idea with this kind of adhesive tape is pretty unique, and well, creates a very nice mood. And as usual, this has been covered by RetroGamerNation already, so do not expect a game review from my side, because I think it makes not that much sense to do things redundant, and perhaps we're going to have a night live session playing the game and having some chit chat. Just as a kind of wrap up, as I said, I played this already as a disk image version, and for me it feels a little bit, let's say, slow. So if you compare this to other arcade shoot 'em ups like 1942, for example, which came exactly from the arcade machine to the C64, it feels indeed a bit slow paced. I mean, it's an helicopter, it's not an airplane, and therefore it is a little bit slower. But I'm missing, let's say, a little bit variation in the action as well. But perhaps it is just a first impression. I never went much farther than, I think, the second level or something like this. And therefore I may have to spend some time, and maybe it's getting more intense after the first levels. So anyway, so much about gaming. Let's see whether we can get this back into the box. And then you can see it already. I have received something related to the Ultimate 64. And it came to my mind that I never ever tested to build this Ultimate 64 into a case. I have just used the board flat on my desk, and now I thought it's about time to put this into a case. And tricky thing about the Ultimate 64 is that it has no common shape, and therefore it does not fit very well into a standard C64 case without any, let's say, additional components. And Pixelwizard Shop something EU, I think. I will post the link in the description section. Just forgot it for a while. Offers a couple of parts to make mounting the Ultimate 64 in your C64 case a little bit easier. And the main thing is what you can see here right now, a different way to mount your keyboard. So if you are aware of the original C64 mounts, which are looking similar like this, for example, and if you try to put this on the Ultimate 64, you see that this won't fit at all. And therefore it is required to have a kind of different construction. And therefore they created this additional mount that fits to the case. And then you just kind of shift this keyboard mount to this position. And the original keyboard mount for the left-hand side won't fit at all, because it will be too low, because the board is missing. Usually the board goes up to here, and therefore the original keyboard mount is a little bit higher. And therefore they created an additional keyboard mount for the left hand side as well. And it is 3D printed, which is a cool idea, I have to say. And it looks quite good. It's perhaps not high end, it's not perfect, but it looks indeed very nice and fits to this, let's say, new character of the Ultimate 64. And as you can see, we have kind of a hole that fits to this mount here on the bottom. And this is a little bit tight, I have to say, so I think it requires some rework, because now it is a little bit kind of tilted to the side. And that's basically almost the same for the other side. So this is a bit tight here as well. So I think I will just kind of won't get it off anymore. Hope I'm not going to break it. Here we go. I think I will file the hole a little bit towards the right hand side, and then I think it will fit here much better into the case. Now it's a little bit bended as well, and that's perhaps not the intention, and it's basically too high as well. So, but anyway, that's probably due to tolerances of cases, 3D prints, temperature, I don't know. So, and last but not least, there are two additional things you can clip onto the board, so that if you press to apply a pressure to the board, you're not going to bend this. And this is for the sit area as well as for the whatever FPGA area, and that's very nice as well, because the Ultimate 64 is just mounted with those few screws here on the back side of the C64 and on the right hand side, and compared to the original C64 boards, it is a little bit flappy, I don't know. And yes, and as a last part, I have ordered the power inlet, insert, whatever, and the power button cover. And this is a 3D printed part as well. And this fits pretty good to it. So it's basically something like this. And there's a power button replacement as well, so that you get rid of this tiny power button. And I think this looks, can't see anything at all, I just recognize, I'm sorry. So, and I think this looks pretty nice as well. And if it's mounted to the C64, it works very well as well. And therefore you do not have this huge and kind of ugly hole on the side anymore. And beside this, I have ordered the standard C64 keyboard mounts as well. So I expect this part to be the very same. So I think they are replaceable. Yes, indeed. And this is going to be for the left-hand side. And this is then for the standard C64 board. And I think that needs to be mounted like this as well. And then the board on top, and then everything is going to work very well. So, and last but not least, the 64 keyboard mounts. So I just need to keep this together. I have received another power insert cover, whatever we want to call this. And this time, this is for the C64 Reloaded MK2, MK1. I think it fits to both of them. Yes. And that's the same purpose, to cover this whole original power socket hole in the C64 case. So much about this. And as the very end of this episode, you can see it already, I have received the new Turbo Chameleon version 2, and I have done a couple of things, tests, whatever we want to call this, on the Turbo Chameleon already, and there will be a special episode dedicated to the Turbo Chameleon as well, as soon as I went through most of, let's say, the options and features of the Turbo Chameleon. And therefore this is going to be just a sneak preview of this whole new incarnation of this Turbo Chameleon. There has been, as you may guess already, a version 1 a couple of years ago, and I owned this back in the time, but I got kind of bored and sold it later on. But now I was interested to see what's going to be the change for the new one. And the most obvious part is that we have those 3 connectors added to the side. So version 1 had just one connector inside the case, and you had to use some kind of a breakout cable. And for me it felt a little bit, let's say, cumbersome, a little bit bulky to have this felt like 10 cables attached to the Turbo Chameleon. And therefore they have changed the design slightly, so they added this kind of additional PCB to the side with this basically 4 connectors, USB and PS2 keyboard and mouse, as well as a mini IEC connector. And here you can attach IEC devices like a real floppy drive or a Pi 1541, for example, which makes some sense because the floppy drive emulation is kind of limited to C64 images. So you can't load the 81 images, for example, like you can do on a Pi 1541 or on an SD to IEC device. Or if you really want to copy real floppy disks to the Turbo Chameleon, then you can use this connector. And the very interesting thing is that this cartridge works in 2 modes. Basically, one is the standalone mode, which is kind of presented right now. And I have attached this to a USB power cable as well as to my VGA monitor, which runs here on my right hand side. And here we go. And for the first Turbo Chameleon, for the version 1, there was a kind of docking station available, which is actually not available to buy, but individual computers promised that they're going to produce another set over the year. And this makes it very interesting because then you are able to attach a real C64 keyboard, for example, as well as up to 4 joysticks. And then you have a standalone C64 kind of emulator, C64 mini, whatever we want to call this, with a VGA output, SD to IEC device, SD card reader, I'm sorry. And you're ready to go. And you can use this as a cartridge as well, so you can attach this to your C64, then you do not need this power supply and all that things. And then you can use the VGA port as an output for your C64, or you use your standard outputs, whatever you want to go. And then it becomes a very versatile cartridge in terms of floppy drive emulation. It's not required to attach a cable to it. That's a very major difference compared to the 1541 Ultimate series, for example. You can use it for cartridge emulation, so whether it is a retro replay or a final cartridge, whatever. You can load cartridge images like CRT image, games, something like this. And you can use it as a network adapter as well. So I have equipped my Turbo Chameleon already with this RRNet network adapter. Therefore, there's 2 additional LEDs, and then you have a network port on the side here as well. That's something I have to test as well. And well, that's just basically a brief overview, but I think the main feature a lot of people are looking for is already mentioned in the name as well. The Turbo Chameleon is a turbo card that is able to speed up your C64 by I think up to 10 megahertz. And this makes sense for some applications, for some games, maybe not for all, but especially games that are, let's say, vector based, for example, or racing games like Test Drive 2, for example. They really work very well on the Turbo Chameleon. I have already done a couple of tests and I'm very impressed. So especially Test Drive 2 works like a charm. It is really a complete different game. It's so much fun to play it right now. And if you have in mind games like Elite, for example, or Driller, which are vector-based, or Coronis Rift, or Rescue on Fractalism, for example. If you speed them up by, let's say, 2 to 5 megahertz, it is really a whole new experience. And I just loaded up Slipstream 64 and attached the Turbo Chameleon to my small TV set. And what I really love about the Turbo Chameleon is that you can use this CDTV remote controller. And Therefore, you have a lot of functions already covered by this remote control. You can use it as a joystick, you can play games with it. That's perhaps not the best solution for all of the games. I wouldn't mind to play jump and runs, for example, but for a quick test, let's say for Slipstream, for example, or for a racing game that's not that much fast-paced, for example, it works very well. And if you just want to run a couple of demos after a stressy day, then really you can sit back, use the remote control, and control your C64 over this Turbo Chameleon. And the Slipstream 64 game is already optimized to run with the Turbo Chameleon. So it detects it automatically, and then it runs in an, let's say, faster graphic mode. And I really love the game, but I have to admit I kind of hated playing it on a standard C64 because it felt so slow. And now it is really a whole new game to me as well. It feels very fluid, very responsive, and it makes a lot more fun to play this fantastic game on the C64 now with the Turbo Chameleon. And basically, so much about the Turbo Chameleon and all the stuff here on my desk. As I mentioned, I will cover some of the topics like the SRAM mods as well as the Turbo Chameleon in a special episode. And therefore, feel free to stay interested to my channel, as well as perhaps going to subscribe to my channel as well, so that you stay informed about the next steps. And feel free to use the comment section as well to express your feelings, your ideas, your whatever thoughts about the new channel name, for example. I'm really looking forward to learn how this new one fits to, well, your interest anyway. And yeah, as usual, that's all for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and see you for the next episode. Bye bye.